So you sit down to do the work and you just can't make yourself do the thing you know you should. It feels so hard, and it could actually be small tasks. It doesn't need to be anything hugely difficult, but it requires a little bit of effort. And that little bit of effort feels that you genuinely can't force yourself to do it. You're sitting there knowing what to do, knowing that you've got the competence, the capability, the knowledge to do it, but you can't. It feels so difficult. You have this heavy feeling in your body. I've been there before. In this moment, what is happening is very likely that you've wired your brain to chase instant gratification and things that don't require effort. See, the thing is, society today, it's the easiest it's ever been to chase instant gratification, and it's the hardest it's ever been to have things in life where you delay gratification, because instant gratification is everywhere, right? Short-term pleasures are every single place you look, whether it's on your phone, whether it's in the supermarket, whatever it is, you're being conditioned by society to chase short-term dopamine. And it's not until you watch a video like this that you become aware of how important it actually is to wire your brain correctly when it comes to your dopamine. See, dopamine is the neuropeptide that makes babies crawl. It gives you drive to move forward. And if you are burning this out, if you're not wiring your brain correctly to associate dopamine with things that require effort, if you're not wiring your brain to crave hard work and that being its source of dopamine, well, it's going to be wired in the completely wrong way. Let's start off by giving you a little analogy. I'm going to look at this through the lens of cause and effect, because it's a very easy way for me to give you this lesson and you to understand it, right? So the law of cause and effect states that every cause creates an effect, and every effect is created by a cause. Well, how can this apply to the way that you wire your brain? Well, how you wire your brain will dictate how your brain operates. I want you to think, for the lens of this video, that your brain is an operating system, okay? And how you wire it will dictate how it operates. And it's not going to be random that it feels hard to do tasks. This is the thing that I want to become super clear in your mind. The reason why it feels hard is because you're wiring your brain the wrong way. It's not because you can't do it, you know that. You know that you can do the thing, but it just feels really difficult. We'll make sense of this. If how you wire it dictates how it operates, well, think about this. If you wire it for instant gratification, how's it going to operate? Well, it's going to seek pleasure. It's going to seek that instant gratification. It's naturally how you're going to be wired. So when you think about applying this to what would be ideal, well, ideally you delay gratification and you do things that require effort. And that's how you operate. That's how your brain is wired. Well, if you aren't aware that how you wire it dictates how it operates, and you're not aware enough to reflect and think, how have I been wiring my brain recently when it comes to dopamine? Well, then you're never going to actually have the awareness to make the change. But a video like this gives you the awareness. Another thing I want to make you aware of is we all have this baseline of dopamine, right? So I want you to think about this as the baseline. Well, if you're doing things that give you very, very high hits of dopamine, scrolling, watching porn, eating sugar, whatever it is, right? Well, then you have these spikes, okay? And as you have these spikes in dopamine, this baseline becomes higher. But most of the things in our life that require effort, that will move us forward, grow the business, develop ourselves, and ultimately allow us to progress in every area of our life, they don't tend to give us these high levels of dopamine unless you put the effort in. So what will happen is the work that you're avoiding, imagine it's here, it will only bring you to here, only give you this little dopamine hit here. But anything below this new baseline that you create, okay, this new baseline due to the short-term gratification and the instant gratification that you're wiring your brain to have, anything below this isn't going to feel good. It's going to feel hard, it's going to feel difficult, it's not going to feel enjoyable. Well, imagine you could start to wire your brain to enjoy doing work. Wire your brain to even just going a walk in nature being a very enjoyable thing. Well, you can, but it starts with awareness. You need to have awareness like in this video. But it's amazing to me, or actually it's disgusting if I think about it really, that going a walk in the park, going a walk in nature today isn't even something that people really enjoy. They don't really get any real dopamine from doing that because they are frying their brain and they're creating this new baseline like I've shown you here. And when you create this new baseline, reconnect my pen, I don't know why it's not working. But when you create this new baseline, ultimately, anything below it's not good. Anything below it doesn't feel enjoyable. So we need to understand that until we lower this baseline, until we change the way we're wiring our brains, we're going to really cause ourselves to not enjoy life as much, right? I want you to leave this video with the awareness of how you can start enjoying doing work, how you can start to wire your brain for effort and doing hard things and not just short-term gratification. So what I'm going to bring your awareness to here is we're going to actually do a dopamine audit. And this dopamine audit is something that I do with my clients because it's very important that you have awareness around your dopamine. It's very important that you have awareness around what your current dopamine sources are. So let me bring your attention to this right now. We're just going to go into the success system I have for clients, and then I'm also going to allow you to see this dopamine audit, right? So it should appear on the screen now, up to my left. So this dopamine audit is simple. What you're going to do is you're going to go through these sources and you're going to label, as you can see here, the sources that you currently have. So scrolling, it could be the positive ones as well. Just list all your dopamine sources. Scrolling, gym, creative work, it could be Netflix, sales calls, whatever it is for you. And I want you to just list all these dopamine sources, and I want you to use this audit in a way where you apply 100 points to each dopamine source. And be honest, the more transparent you can become with this, the more awareness you gain, the more control you gain. So just apply the points that essentially are relevant to the sources. So if you know you're getting a lot of dopamine recently from scrolling or watching porn, a lot of people do, and again, don't be ashamed, most guys are watching porn and they wouldn't tell you that. Give the points that are relevant to that source, right? And I guarantee when you do this and you're transparent, if you feel like it's hard to do things at the moment and that's you, then your dopamine sources are not aligned with the ideal version of yourself. It's not serving you the best to get things done and do things that require effort, right? So just simply audit your dopamine, right? Put them in, and you'll notice that the points you're giving to sources that require less effort and give you higher spikes of dopamine are likely higher than the ones that you're giving to the gym, your work, relationships, whatever it is, right? And when you become aware of this, what this is giving you is awareness to make a change. So if you watch this and you scroll down here, let's see if I can remove this off the screen, okay? You look at this here and you want to look at your future dopamine sources, okay, where you want your dopamine to come from. And you're going to list all the positive ones. There's going to be no scrolling, no porn, no sugar, no bullshit in here. It's all going to be sources of dopamine that require a little bit of effort. And this is going to allow you to start aligning what your ideal sources of dopamine are. So you can start to wire your brain to operate in a way where it will chase effort, it will chase hard work, and it won't just be setting these super high baselines and anything underneath that is hard, right? And you want to list these out, and then you want to apply the same scores to each source. And moving forward, I would not expect anyone, really, to just completely replace all your current dopamine sources with all the new ones. That would be the most ideal, and if you could do that, hats off to you, right? But I would recommend you replace one of the sources that you've got right now, maybe it's scrolling, with creative work, right? Or reading, or going to the gym. Replace the reward that you're currently wiring yourself to chase instant gratification, replace that with one that requires delayed gratification. Like I said, go to the gym, going a run. Doing these kind of things, because when you start to just replace one at a time, you're starting to move towards the ideal version of yourself that no longer requires short-term gratification and short-term dopamine hits to feel good. And you're going to notice that over time, naturally, your baseline is going to start to lower. This dopamine baseline is going to start to lower, and things like, as I said, going a walk in nature is going to start to become more enjoyable. You're going to start to enjoy the present moment a lot more. You will not require the same hits of dopamine, the same cheap hits of dopamine that you once did. But it requires you to watch a video like this and understand that how you're wiring your brain dictates how it operates. And it's not random that it feels hard to do things. It's because you're ruining your dopamine system. You're ruining your ability to seek dopamine sources that require effort. And as you start to decrease the amount of sources that you're using that are short-term gratification and start to introduce ones that are actually going to require a little bit of effort, you're naturally going to adapt to this. And how you wire your dopamine system is going to start to really dictate how easy things start to feel. It's simply that. That is simply how this is going to go for you, right? And I just want to really, really make sure that you're aware how important this is. I want to just take you into your mind for a little second, right? Imagine you don't stop wiring yourself for short-term gratification. Imagine you keep making things harder for yourself. Imagine you just keep wiring yourself for short-term gratification, things that require no effort. How are you going to feel in the long run? Thinking about a year's time, 5 years' time, what does that actually lead to? You continuously doing things that require no effort, don't have the power and the drive to do things that require a little bit of hard work. How does that look? What do your results look like? How do you feel? That to me is the fucking nightmare scenario. I want you to think about this. This is you right now. And there's two places that you're going to. There's two paths that you're taking. You're either going towards the vision or you're going towards the nightmare. And this is important for you to really tie a little bit of pain to doing this, because you need to. You need to realize that this is actually going to really lead to something you do not want. The sources that you've got right now, your current dopamine sources, if you are someone that's struggling to do work and it feels like a grind, that's leading you to your nightmare, okay? That's putting you in a position where your brain is wired to do things that will not move you forward, that you're not going to thank yourself for. So think about this. The current dopamine sources are serving who? They're serving you now. Okay, they're serving you now. Well, these other sources that are going to take you towards the vision, who do they serve? They serve your future self. So we need to take on the mindset and really realize that unless we start living for our future self and start doing things that they're going to thank us for, then we're never ever actually going to achieve the results that we want. We're going to continuously wire our brain in a way where it's hard to do things. Okay, we're chasing short-term gratification in the moment. We're serving you now instead of serving your future self. We need to realize that doing that is only going to lead to the nightmare. We need to realize that if we want to go towards the vision and achieve all the results that we want, you need to start doing things that give your future self dopamine when you look back. So this is the core mindset shift I want you to leave with. You want to concern yourself for your future self, okay? And you want to be grateful and look back for your past self. And when you get to be grateful for your past self, guess what you feel? Guess what you get a hit of when you're grateful that you've done that before? You get a hit of dopamine. So this is how you're going to start to actually create a dopamine source for setting your future self up. You set the clothes out tonight for yourself in the morning. Guarantee in the morning you wake up, you're like, oh, I fucking love myself. Get a dopamine hit from serving your past self serving you now. And you almost start to create this relationship where concerning yourself now for your future self allows you to feel dopaminergic, get a dopamine hit, looking back and thinking about how you set yourself up. I guarantee if you look at the things that you've done to put yourself in the position you're in right now, the good things, you get a dopamine hit. You love yourself, you feel good about it. Well, if you start doing small things and you become a butler for your future self, start setting yourself up, you're going to start to wire your brain to get dopamine hits, to anticipate, because that's what dopamine is. It's the anticipation, but it's also the reward system, the reward that you get from these short-term gratifications like scrolling and watching porn. But if you can almost put yourself in a position where you're always feeling good and getting dopamine hits from what you've done for yourself before, it's going to be this thing where you actually will genuinely feel better about doing things for your future self than your present self. I can remember before, I used to chase short-term gratification. I used to smoke weed instead of doing things for the business. Instead of maybe looking at the numbers for the business and understanding where everything was currently at, to give myself in the future security and a source of dopamine and feeling good, I would chase short-term pleasure. But it would always lead to the nightmare. It would always lead to the negative emotions. It would always lead to more stress, more overwhelm, and ultimately it would lead to more short-term gratification. Because what do you do when you start feeling stressed? If this is how you wire your brain, you're just going to keep seeking the short-term pleasure. That's how you escape the short-term discomfort. But it's really, really important that you need to understand that in order for you to wire yourself in the right way, that short-term discomfort, that bit of effort is required. And when you're starting to shift your dopamine sources right now from the short-term gratification to the delayed gratification, it's not going to be comfortable. There's going to be an element, right, where this is not comfortable. And I said I was going to end this video, but I'm just going to end it on this right now, is exposure, okay, and adaptation. As you start to expose yourself to things that require a little bit more effort, you're going to start to adapt to things that require more effort. So at the start, it might be a bit more uncomfortable because you have been wiring yourself in the wrong way recently. But as you start to expose yourself to this, it's going to be more normal. It's going to feel better. It's going to be something that you start adapting to. So in order for you to get to the point where you want to be with these new dopamine sources, there's a little bit of exposure, there's a little bit of uncomfort to start with, but you need to push through that and think about your future self. Fuck your feelings in the moment, because looking back, you're not going to be glad you've done this. This is the core mindset shift you need to have. This is the awareness you need to bring to your current dopamine sources for you to actually start wiring yourself to chase hard work. It's as simple as that. It doesn't need to be more complicated. If you understand that your baseline is getting raised by all the short-term gratification, and you can bring that baseline down and make things easier for yourself by using the awareness in this video, you do it. But knowledge isn't power. Implementation is power. So you need to implement what I've told you in this video to actually make a real change. And for more videos like this, to really start shifting your mind and become the version of you that has the success, subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, because everyone has this problem with dopamine, and I'll see you in the next one.